Grade 10, this is part 2 of the answers for your fourth quarter revision questions. Number 21, a distinguishing characteristic that can be inherited is a trait. Of course, any characteristic that you inherit is called a trait. 22, Mendel's law of segregation states that organisms inherit 2 copies of each gene. That the organisms inherit 2 copies of each gene, and the organisms donate copies to the offsprings in predictable ratios, which means that you get a copy from the mother and a copy from the father. 23. When an organism has 2 alleles at a particular locus means location, that are different, the organism is called heterozygous. If the 2 alleles are similar, they are called homozygous. If the 2 alleles are different, it is called heterozygous. 24. Which phrase best describes the term genome? The term genome is best described as the genes that make up an organism. As we said, since humanity discovered this idea of the genome, they started actually reading the genes and reading how the genes function. 25. Which pair of genes in figure 6.2 would most likely to be inherited together? As we said, for the genes to be inherited together, they have to be close together on the chromosome, so when the crossing over happens, these genes are connected and they are not separated during crossing over. So you look at this picture, which genes are close together? You think A and C? Of course not. You think B and C? All of these are separated except of course for genes A and B. So number 25's answer is A and B. 26. Which of the following phrases describes the Punnett square in figure 6.1? So let's look at the Punnett square. We have here this is one parent and we do not have the other parent, but let's look at the offsprings. These offsprings we have dominant, and only 25% recessive trait. So it is called monohybrid heterozygous cross, because we're going to get these are heterozygous, okay, and monohybrid because we are only testing against one trait. 27. When Mendel crossed plants that were purebred purple flowers, so purebred purple flower means that they are pure purple, okay, means that they have both the alleles for pure purple, okay, that were purebred white flowered, the resulting offsprings all had purple flower. So he had purebred purple with purebred white, and the resulting offsprings all were purple. But this tells me that the purple is the dominant color and the white is the recessive color. And of course, when both are pure and they are crossed together, the first generation, they all carry the dominant gene. When allowed to self-pollinate, which means that this generation will be mixed. Although they will all be purple, they will have both the dominant and the recessive genes. So when allowed to self-pollinate, this generation gave rise to white flowered plants as well as purple. As a result, Mendel determined that individual traits are inherited as discrete units, means that each trait is inherited independent of the others. 28. In a genotype for plant height, such as T capital and T small, what does each letter represent? When you write it this way, each letter represents one allele, and each allele is received from one of the parents. 29. Which was a key factor in the success of Mendel's experiments? Mendel chose plants that were easy to cross, and he started with self-pollinating purebred plants. These he kept the pea plants, and he kept on observing the results, and he made sure that these plants were purebred, which means, for example, if he has purple flowers, this means that the parents were purple and the generation before were purple, until he made sure it was purebred. 30. The fusion of haploid gametes is called fertilization. This happens when two sex cells meet together. 31. How many chromosomes are in a human gamete? Gametes are sex cells, so they have half the number of chromosomes. They are haploid cells. 31b, 23. Meiosis produces cells with how many chromosomes? Again, 23, because meiosis happens in the sex cells and it leads to production of cells with half the number of chromosomes. 33. A kidney cell is an example of each type of cell. Of course, all the cells in your body are somatic cells except for the sex cells. So a kidney cell is a somatic cell. 33c. 34. Which of the following descriptions best matches the information shown in the diagram? We look at the diagram, and again, this is a monohybrid cross of heterozygous parent. Monohybrid means that it's testing against only one type of traits, and heterozygous parents, as you can see here, and as you can see the results, they are not pure. 35. About how many different combinations of chromosomes can be produced through the random fertilizations of human gametes? Of course, we have, the answer is C. We have 2 to the power of 23 times 2 to the power of 23, because they get one gamete from each parent. 36. At fertilization, what happens to the sex cells? Their nuclei fuse to form one nucleus. 37. Imagine two heterozygous parents, which means that both are not pure. Each has a dominant allele X for brown eyes and the recessive allele X for blue eyes. So both parents, they are represented by X capital and X small, and both are heterozygous. The phenotypic ratio for brown, blue eyes in their children is 3:1. Which of the following cell types is haploid? Again, all the cells in your body are diploid except for the sex cells, which are haploid, which have half the number of chromosomes. So it's the sperm cells. 39. Two similar chromosomes that you inherit from your parents, one from your mother and one from your father, are called, of course, homologous chromosomes. 40. During what stage of meiosis does crossing over occur? Remember, prophase 1, meiosis 1. I hope this covers all the questions, and watch it many times until you absorb all the answers.